You properly satiated?
Never.
Not you, baby. This baby.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, no. I was talking to you.
Oh, this
But
is this is why I think it's weird.
oh, it's weird that I call my girlfriend baby.
It's weird that I got that deep into the conversation and thought it was
No, no,
wasn't sure if it was about
I
me or
was
not.
talking to you
I
though.
know, but think of the words we were exchanging. It's weird that I got that deep in without knowing who it was for.
But is that more of an indictment of our relationship?
I'd say it's an indictment of yours.
Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Rich, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello. Fuck.
Is it that much of a delay, or was that just you fucking up?
That was just me. You were halfway through saying it, and I was like, oh shit, I've been saying stuff other than hello. And then I froze, and then I just said hello.
And punished yourself for saying the thing that you won't say.
Yeah, that wasn't a delay. The internet's fine. It's just my brain.
Yeah, if you're wondering why the usual impeccable patter is off, it's because the doctor is on the other side of the country.
Yeah. I'm on vacation right now. And by that I mean I in no way prepared to be on vacation, so I'm recording from my parents' house.
Yeah, we really didn't put any effort into trying to like prep extra episodes or anything.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
But you've been having a great time as you've talked about on the Discord, and more specifically on the Patreon. If you, the double doses, if you want to subscribe to that, you can hear about all of the comic book journey you've been having. You've got like a shitload of books.
I've bought like 100 comics so far,
which is like more than you usually spend when we go to like Vancouver for comic books.
I've spent probably less and gotten more though. Like it's been a real like value trip, I think. But it's also like I'm not on vacation to get comics, so the fact that I've carved out enough time to buy 100 of them is a little bit funny. But yeah, I found a comic book shop that I was excited to share with everyone on the double. And then I shared it with you because I care about you. And then you said, "Oh yeah, I already knew about it. I have the app." So you've been holding out on me, and that was a fun thing to learn while I was supposed to be on vacation.
I don't know if I have been holding out on you. I feel like I must have sent you a link for this place before because I typically don't hold these things to myself.
I think you're a no good lying piece of shit. I think you.
Or
and,
that's an option.
I think that's a pretty measured response that I won't regret when you pull up our chat history.
Am I doing that right now? Who's
no,
to
no,
say?
No. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. Been a fun trip. Spent some time in Toronto. Spent some time in Niagara Falls. Maybe on the busy like Niagara Falls on Canada Day is the busiest place I've ever. It's the busiest place I've ever been.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
It was. I mean, it was nice. Got to show the falls to my kid and stuff like that. But like, I don't like Niagara Falls. Like there's the touristy part of it that's like too kind of like Vegas, Atlantic City-ish for me.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the falls is not like a awesome city. So, but we had a fun time. We went out for a nice lunch. We went out for a really nice dinner. Saw the falls lit up at night. Like it was fun, but it's the busiest place I've ever seen in my life. It's Niagara Falls on Canada Day.
Especially after living in the Yukon for so long.
I mean, that doesn't help. But I mean, even compared to like, I was at a Jays game the day before, which is probably technically more people, but does not feel like it. You know what I mean? Like,
because I get panicky in like Vancouver sometimes, like because there's so many people.
It's maybe it's the first time that I was ever like, this is actually too many people. Like,
yes,
we were outside, like all of Clifton Hill is like pedestrian for that, for Canada Day. So
like
there's no car.
Like it's fine. Like it's just like
it's pedestrian. Yeah. It's no, like there's no cars or anything.
Sure, yeah.
But I was like, there was at one point in my head, I was like, what's the fire code for this? Like being outside. Like
How do you get safe outside to more outside?
it was very, very busy, but a ton of fun. We've had a really nice trip, lots of visiting with family and stuff. Having a good time. I saw The Flash last night with my dad.
Oh my god. Um,
I have thoughts, but I'll reserve them.
can you give a one word review?
One word is complicated.
Okay, okay, that helps.
Yeah,
Okay, that gives me enough to go off of.
yeah. A complicated opinion
I mean,
about that movie for a
big
number of
surprise.
reasons.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
complicated in a lot of ways. Yeah,
Interesting. Okay. All
yeah.
right. Well, there you go. Well, each
What
week
have you?
we talk
Hey,
about the
no,
world.
sorry. We were always talking about me. Like, what have you been up to? Are you holding up? Do you miss me? Or
I think as when the mics weren't running and you asked me that question, I'll give you the same response, which is I don't think I can give you that answer.
um, huh? Okay. Well, yeah. You know what? Let's just do the episode. That's fine.
Yeah, I missed you. All right. I missed you. Okay. You complete me.
Thank you. That's what I wanted.
Let's have a romantic excursion in Vancouver together.
Now I can finish.
The podcast or
Well,
nice. Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
I keep forgetting that you put the. We keep cutting that part off. Oh, that's amazing. That's
It
really
does make
funny.
does make me very happy. This week we're talking about Starman waiting in the sky.
Yeah, you picked this theme because you fucked up last week.
Oh fuck, man!
Because you came for the king and you fucking missed.
I will say you kind of fucked up last week.
How?
Because previously you ripped up the ticket, negating its reuse, and you
Oh,
didn't
I
do
see.
that.
Interesting.
Had that not been set as a precedent, I wouldn't have thought about it. But you didn't do it last time.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's fun that you bring that up, but also, yeah, I'm not going to honor it again.
What did you? I'm sorry that I couldn't, live up to the standards of artwork that we're so used to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that was a letdown. I think the producing was pretty solid.
A thing I haven't listened to yet. I will say I did sort of do a little bit of it.
Excuse me? It's fucking excuse me?
Because there's a tool that I have that you don't.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter a little bit.
Well, I'm definitely not honoring that shit again then. You don't even. Absolutely not.
It was just you don't have access to the leveler.
It doesn't matter. That's the point.
Yeah, but no, I can't. Look, I've relinquished so much of my control in this and like my care about the quality of this podcast over the last few years, but there's a few things that still need to be higher quality.
I feel so betrayed.
Because I helped you.
Actually, do you know what? I shouldn't feel that betrayed by it because do you know what I did?
What did you do?
Well, I put the episode in drafts, and then in the morning when I saw that you hadn't put the
You
artwork
posted it.
I just published
I know.
it because I was like,
Oh, I
I'm
know.
tired. I don't want this thing being that late.
I know you did. Because you were like, oh, yeah, it's fine. Like, take the time, whatever you need. Oh, I know. Because I went to go look for it.
It did feel very passive aggressive when I did it. Yeah.
Okay. Starman.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking about Starman. Starman, we didn't do like a specific reading for this episode, but Starman made it to the finals for the tournament of pandering.
Yeah, baby.
We've talked a little bit about Starman in the past, and sometimes in random episodes, the character comes up. But Starman has like a weird, complicated history. There's like 8 or 9 different versions of Starman
Oh wow.
out like through the course of the history of DC Comics, going all the way back to like the 40s.
Oh wow.
It's an old character. It's been around for a long time. Where some versions are old characters, some are more contemporary, but they're technically almost all connected now because of the Starman series that ran from in the 90s, the James Robinson Starman series.
Mhm.
Um, it's a favorite character of mine because I love that series. I love that book. Yeah, I'm just excited to talk. I'm just excited to talk about a character I like that is like a real deep cut for some people.
Yeah, even though you had to suffer through and deal with last week's episode, now you get to deal with you get to talk about the character you wanted.
Listen, I suffer for my art, and the only suffering I did last week was drinking banana milk.
Oh God, why did you do that?
Oh, no, I won't say it on the podcast.
Pardon?
Well, just that I'm about 85% sure that I've locked you in for Dairy Docmas this year.
Oh, yeah, fuck. I know. Unless we can come up with something better.
I don't
Anybody
think
has
we
a better idea.
I'm just going to say this. I would be so open to a better, different idea. And it would be a real shame if someone enterprising and charismatic like Cosmic DM just made sure we did Dairy Docmas.
How could he make sure?
I don't know. He made sure Milk Wars won. He seems to have power.
What we should do is come up with like four different ideas and then have the residents decide which documents we do.
Yeah, that's definitely not a way to leverage his power.
But maybe he can come up with something even better. Wait, no,
Yeah.
that's dangerous. This is how we get fucking Bodie McBokeface. No, thank you.
Docmas McDoc phase.
Yeah, this is which is like us just eating human shit for 8 hours. Yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah, yeah, we record human centipede style.
Yeah, there's 12 of us.
There's 12 guests
Yeah,
sewn to each other.
yeah. And would still dairy Docmas.
And a question is passed from one of them to the next one
Yeah.
until we get an answer at the final one.
I guess this question's from Butt Fart Butt. All right. Why don't we start answering some real questions,
Let's do it. Yeah.
non-human centipede style from Facebook.
Go to the face in the book. Go to the Facebook.
Coming to us from Charlton Posting, who asks, "Which Starman is your personal favorite? Also, have you read Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer? It features a tragic Starman slash Green Lantern inspired analog character in one of the spinoffs."
I haven't read that much Black Hammer. I really need to because I mean, A, I like Lemire, and
Who
B,
doesn't?
Black Hammer seems super dope.
Hell yeah.
As for favorite Starman, I mean, I love that James Robinson series, but weirdly, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Jack Knight, even though that's the protagonist of that series.
Oh,
I'm
really?
who I who I like is I mean, my favorite one is Ted Knight, is the original, the Golden Age Starman, the one that was a member of the Justice Society, the inventor of the gravity rod and the cosmic rod. Um, I I just really I like the costume. I love that red and green costume. I love the kind of like the finned helmet. I have I have one of those, like DC publishes those like kind of omnibuses of like it's like the Golden Age Starman. I've got like
Yeah,
some
that's right. You
classic
do.
Starman stories, and some of them are like very, very silly, very funny. Um, but I really enjoy those. Um, yeah, I like Ted Knight, and I like Ted in that Starman series where he's an old man and he's somewhat selfishly. I like that he's not necessarily like the best guy. He's sometimes kind of a bad guy or a bit selfish. Like he wants his mantle to be passed on because he sees his legacy as maybe more important than it is, you know. And there's that pressure that's put on Jack, right? Like he had passed the mantle to David Knight, his son, who is then like promptly assassinated. And so then Jack ends up with it kind of reluctantly. He doesn't want to be a superhero. And Ted has to kind of confront a bunch of things in that series. But I love his character. I love the way he's written. There's a really cool, like, even as an old guy, you could see what made him like a masked mystery man, in the 40s or whatever, like when he's fighting Dr. Phosphorus, or at the end, in his death, where he has to, like, he kind of sort of shakes hands with his mortal enemy, the Mist, and stuff. He kind of has this
Yeah.
sort of like kind of honorable out or whatever. I Yeah, I really like Ted Knight. I'll give honorable mention though to Will Payton, who's a sort of alternate version of Starman, who gets his powers from like a beam of like celestial energy that comes down from a satellite, and hits him. And that Starman I find interesting. There's a few different versions of even him and his story. The most recent one was in the Scott Snyder run of Justice League. I like the Will Payton Starman. As far as an alternate goes, I'm kind of into that one. But he's in his own way part of the Starman lineage. Yeah.
Totally. Next question comes from the most interesting resident.
Stephen Marion Almagro.
It's not fair when you have the questions up.
I don't have them up. I just remembered that we're still on Facebook.
From Steven, who asks, Prince Gavin Starman was a background character in the JLU animated series. Is
Yes.
there any episode where he could have been slotted into a bigger role? Do you think he has a place in today's continuity of the DC universe?
Yeah, Prince Gavin is interesting. So this version of Starman was he's like a monarch, like a prince on, I think it's called Throne World or something like that. It's like a made up whatever. And he starts off as being this very kind of like spoiled, selfish monarch, right? He's used to riches and he's used to power and stuff like that. I think his sibling, his sister or someone tries to have him killed, and he's thrown into space, and then he discovers he can survive. And he's kind of like a mutant that has sort of like star powers and can live in space. And he gets a staff and these like bracelets to help him control his power. He only shows up in a handful of issues, and then but in those, it's like he learns the value of heroism. He wants to actually serve his people. It's that kind of like he learns his lessons about being a good leader, about, a duty of service and stuff like that. And he ends up dying in Crisis, in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. He dies trying to save Throne World, I think, from like the antimatter wave. Um, so there have been some retcons to him, but all of that to say is like Prince Gavin shows up in like these many issues of comics.
Sure.
So I actually think it's weird that is the design and like the choice of Starman that they put in the Justice League Unlimited series. To me, it would have made more sense to put in, like, when they were making that cartoon, the Jack Knight Starman book was out. So it would have made sense to either have him or have someone wearing like the classic like Starman outfit, like David Knight even, or something. Or because they had a Dr. Midnight on that show too. Like you could have had Starman in there. Or you should have gone with someone like Will Payton, like a different kind of Starman who has a suit and powers and stuff like that. It's weird to me that they picked like kind of the one Starman that it has such a short run and a real kind of like off over here sort of adventure. Like it's kind of mostly contained to Throne World, and then he dies in Crisis. So I actually think it's weird that he's in JLU at all. I kind of think it would have made more sense to put in Will Payton or Jack Knight or something like that in place.
Totally. Well, speaking of Will Payton and Prince Gavin, Truth, Justice, and Hope, a Superman podcast, asks, Will Payton's origin has gone through a couple of retcons over the years to fit the needs of a larger narrative. From the original lab accident to being a vessel for the power of Prince Gavin to being a conduit for the totality. Do you have a favorite version?
Yeah, so Will Payton, that version of Starman, if you ever see him, he either has like a kind of purple and yellow outfit or a black and red and white outfit, and it has a big star on in the center. Um, and his original thing was that, yeah, he got hit with like energy that bounced off a satellite and then hit him, or was like targeted from the satellite to hit him. And he sort of becomes a conduit for like stellar energies, like cosmic energies. So the power source is in that way kind of the same as like Ted Knight, the original Starman. His cosmic rod or gravity rod would harness cosmic energies and then allow him to fly and shoot energy bolts and stuff like that. Will Payton could do that, but that was just in him. Um, so that his first version was that the Prince Gavin retcon is that when Prince Gavin dies, his like life essence kind of becomes part of that energy beam that ends up hitting Will Payton. And then as a further retcon to that, the idea is a kind of Swamp Thing scenario where Will Payton dies when he's hit by that thing, but Prince Gavin's life energy takes Will Payton's body and then like lives on. So the retcon is actually that Prince Gavin is kind of Will Payton a little bit
Hmm.
in a sort of, yeah, kind of Swamp Thing scenario slightly. In the Scott Snyder series, where I said that this Will Payton Starman showed up, they made a nice little tweak to his origin that let him fit in with what they were doing, where the energy that hit him wasn't just random cosmic energy, it was energy from the totality, which is it was this all these energies that combined were, it was all about that justice doom thing that we've talked about before, where it was like, which way does the multiverse bend, towards justice or towards doom? When the source wall cracked open, the totality was kind of heading straight at Earth, and that energy hit Will Payton. So they kind of, it's still a cosmic kind of celestial energy that hits him, but it's a little bit different because it has this extra little piece of the kind of newer version of DC's cosmology is woven into it. So I mean, for me, frankly, the one that I like the best is the totality one. It's a little simpler. We don't have the weird like Prince Gavin
Sure.
retcon thing in there, where you kind of have to wrestle with like, well, whose identity is what. I I prefer it for its simplicity that way. And I like that it's like we didn't change how Will Payton gets his powers, but we're like we have a additional or kind of different cosmic energy that can be part of the powers he gets. And then it tied him directly to that story. So everything about Perpetua and about the Legion of Doom and that, like Starman became a real central figure in that. And I thought it was so cool in that Justice League run to take this kind of weird character and put them in the center of it. I thought that was really fun and a neat idea. So yeah, for me it's the totality version. I really like that. Yeah.
Do you want to hear a weird like high thought I just had?
Yes, please.
So it's weird that because it made me think about Starman's abilities and that it's from like universal energies and whatnot.
Right.
And it's the interesting piece is that like the more information that we have about the universe, the more understanding of those types of energy, and with that potentially a more broader understanding or an expansive understanding of what Starman's abilities could be, because we're now like, I mean, even just in the last like few days there was like all of this new information about like uh energies within the universe that we have a better understanding of now, and there's this whole thing about these neutrinos that just started coming out, and so it's like we're getting like a deeper understanding about like universal energies, and theoretically that could potentially expand Starman's abilities.
I think Starman like just fundamentally is an interesting idea for a character. Now in that, and there's like seven different kind of versions and they all have their own kind of takes. But yeah, I mean like I think you're right that there's a, I don't know why necessarily the character hasn't caught on in a way where it's like consistent. Like clearly this character keeps being reinvented, and then later
Yeah,
people have to retcon that they're all part of one
sure.
story, you know? I don't know why it hasn't captured the imagination, but it really should. Like I totally agree. It would be neat to see like the more we learn about, yeah, like dark matter, dark energy, like all those kind of like other
Yeah.
pieces, the more we learn about black holes, the more we learn about that kind of stuff that's out there in the cosmos, finding a way to evolve and keep Starman's powers sort of contemporary to that, or explore those ideas. And like Starman should be like a conduit to have some, whimsy or some mystery or some like
Yeah.
wonder about space and the stars and stuff like that. There's lots of characters that come from space, but a lot of them are pretty straightforward. Starman has like the open window of like, what does it mean when you say cosmic energies? Like
This is what I mean.
that feels so big. There's like a lot of potential in there. It would be cool. I agree. It would be cool to see someone take maybe better advantage of it, or rather take advantage of it in a way like the Starman series in the 90s is excellent. It's acclaimed, it's award winning in that, but it's not really about the cosmos. It's
This is
about
what I
it's
mean.
about personal relationships. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great series, but it's built on this kind of personal drama and the legacies of the Mist and of Starman and stuff like that.
It has a potential in like a way that I think like maybe the most underutilized character in DC, I might even say, because it's you have a character that has access to so much like real world science. I mean, it's part of the reason what makes Flash so cool in a lot of ways is that Flash is built off of like, okay, what can we do with speed? And within that, from a scientific standpoint, we have clear boundaries and then clear opportunities. With Starman, it's like the same thing. It's like, well, universal energy. So whatever we know about universal energies, which keeps expanding, could theoretically expand this character's abilities and could make them one of the most powerful characters, but with some of the most like rigid boundaries because it's all built within science. Which something like Zatanna, which is a magical character, is never gonna have any real boundaries because it's magic. It can be anything. Like 90% of our characters are all built off of like, well, it's it's DC, it's magic, it's whatever, like it's in
Yeah.
space. But like this, it's like, oh no, universal energy. So it's like we can that can be boundless, but nobody's really taken the opportunity to be able to go, well, no, we actually know like there's a lot of information we have about energy now. Let's use it.
Yeah, exactly. And you could go one of two ways with it too. There could be a thing where it's like, I've never talked about this secret power that I've always
Yeah.
had. And we learn that because it's been harnessing all these energies, but now we know what some of those other ones are. So then
Yeah.
you can explore it. And that's a little retconny thing. Or you could go like, now that the sun, like we know through science that there are new energies out there, let's
Yeah.
tweak the cosmic rod to, better
Exactly.
use those. Like, I think you're right. I think Starman's a really like fascinating character. He's got a cool lineage. The trick is not to get trapped in trying to just recreate the magic of that Robinson series. But
Yeah.
to me, Starman is like so full of potential to be an interesting character, set of characters, or whatever. Like
Yeah, I really like love the idea of what could happen, and I think you just need the right person behind it.
totally. I completely
Anyway,
agree.
let's go over to Twitter.
Twitter.
First question comes from Nightwing Enjoyer. He's
Hey, he's
fun.
all right.
How do you guys feel about the Mikhail Thomas Starman is being used by Tom King in Danger Street? I was entirely unfamiliar with him before this series, but I'm liking the position he was put in at the end of the issue one and how he'll deal with it.
So, Michael Thomas or
Is it
Mikhail
Michael? It's just
Thomas.
yeah. I figured it was Mikhail.
I think the idea is that like because this version is an alien who lives on Earth. So I
Oh,
think the version is that he has like an alien name that you could pronounce like Americanly, like
sure.
how Jean Jean's is
I
John Jones. Like I think there's that kind of
I
thing
thought
to it.
this was a like a writer. Now I'm realizing it's a character.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, sorry. This is a different version of Starman yet again. So this one you may have seen him. He's got blue skin and kind of purplish hair.
Oh well.
He first appeared in first issue special. So he's part of Danger Street, which is this current Tom King book. And that book is using all characters that showed up in first issue special that in that
Sure.
series. So from the Green Team to Warlord to Michael Thomas to, all sorts. Um, his initial thing, this character, is that he came to Earth kind of like to prep an invasion of Earth, like by his people.
Oh
And then
well.
he lives among us and he learns to love us and he turns on his people and protects us. He has a crystal like in his chest that gives him some like energy and flight powers and stuff like that. This version is mostly like he's called Starman because it's I think it was slightly inspired by like the movie, like the um the
Oh.
is it Kurt Russell? um it's about an alien, like someone that comes and lives amongst us and learns our ways and that sort of thing.
Oh, K-Pax.
Yeah, sorry, Skypax. That's what I mean. Um, yeah, at Christmas time, Michael Thomas put out this weird video where he kind of tried to apologize for the invasion, but he was also like, anyway.
Did you see the most recent one where he tries to use a ukulele to write a song about his apology?
I have seen that. I don't know who that person is, but I have seen that. Yeah.
Miranda sings. Yeah. I know too much.
Um. So at any rate, that was kind of his thing. Now in Danger Street, in this series that's thrusting all these like first issue special characters together, Michael Thomas and Warlord, for some reason, are trying to summon Darkseid to kill him to guess prove they're heroes or something. Stuff goes wrong. It's all crazy. There's a fight, and the it's not the green team. It's shit. I can't remember their names. There's this other team of kind of like bratty kids shows up and they kind of startle him and he turns around and he accidentally kills one of them. And then he just has to like they kind of cover it up. Like it's a classic Tom King thing, which is like, would these characters cover up a murder? It's like, not really, but for the story, let's let them do it, like
Sure, yeah.
So he's kind of in that position. To be honest, if I think I want to like Danger Street a lot more than I do. I'm still reading it because I'm a completionist, but it's not my favorite. And there's not enough of Michael Thomas or Mikhail Thomas in it. I like the character in the Robinson Starman series a lot better. I think he's more interesting. So no, I don't really love the Danger Street kind of version of this. It's not really doing anything for me.
Fair. All right, next question comes from our favorite religious representative,
Oh, Chris Chan.
the moral compass of the podcast.
Yikes.
Who asks, James Robinson's Starman is very of its time, complete with badly aged references. How would Jack Knight be adapted to today's audience? Would he be a TikTok star or remain punk counterculture? Retro for someone in 23 would be Britney Spears and NSYNC.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jack Knight's whole thing is that he was very counterculture. He runs like a kind of like a, what do you call it? It's almost like a pawn shop, but it's like a nostalgia store, but it's like people don't listen to records anymore. Like he's got that kind of energy. You know what I mean? Like,
Is this turning into like a Midnight in Paris situation?
well, no, maybe not like that. I mean, he's kind of like he clearly is like he's listening to The Cure and he's telling
Sure.
like Jack Knight has that kind of vibe. He's like, I don't want, if I'm going to be a superhero, I'm not going to wear that stupid spandex costume. I'll just wear my regular clothes and some goggles and a Cracker Jack star on my.
Of course.
Like he's that kind of guy. So to me, if you put that in the modern age, he still has to retain that kind of like idea. So he still has to be counterculture. He can't be part of the mainstream. He couldn't be an influencer. You know what I mean? There needs to be some version of that. So the question is, what is a now version of counterculture? and
like, does that even exist anymore?
I mean, to me, that feels like you'd have to be someone like, instead of him, like his thing was all about like, it manifested through like pop culture and media and like how he consumed those things and what he liked and like his music tastes, his whatever. I think like the counterculture thing now would be like he'd be some kind of like urban farmer, like he'd be like some sort of like counter agricultural process. He'd maybe be doing more like
counter societal,
like one of those kind of things. Like I feel like it's too trivial to just be about like
he's a Fox News supporter now.
Oh God, no! Like you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's too trivial to just be about like the TV you watch or the movies you like or stuff
Yeah, I
like
know.
that.
But
Like I
because that
feel
is
like
pop culture now.
I mean, but also like but there's also versions of that. Like you could say if it's just about media and that this guy's like he's only you know he's only watching like classic like Criterion movies, blah 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 blah. He knows
Sure.
all the
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
You could do that, or you could say all of pop culture is too mainstream or too
Yeah.
trivial now. So now the things to be counterculture about have to be like more systemic. So he's like anti agriculture. He's probably vegan. He's probably you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I think there's a version of a more modern Jack Knight that's kind of like that maybe.
I do think it's challenging now, right? Like I think our concept of counterculture is really like non-existent because of the internet. Sort of like all cultures are both prevalent and non-prevalent, and I think that like there's less and less this concept of like a general populace where like there's things that we all enjoy that doesn't really exist anymore. Everything is so individualistic. There are like trends and things like that, but it's like it spans across like taste, it spans across like media, like the like punk people, like that kind of stuff doesn't exist any longer. Like there are those subcultures for sure, but I don't think they count as counterculture anymore. I think people are too open about different groups.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that even the 90s Jack Knight had a sort of like anarchist streak to him. I think that would probably persist. You know, like I don't think that's especially different now, you know.
I mean, I don't know. I think people are pretty anti-establishment these days.
Well, that's what I mean. You know, like
But that's what
well,
I mean. If the concept is counterculture, I think that wouldn't like he could be that, but I think the
right.
concept of him being opposed to culture, I think
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
harder.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Maybe the thing that's different is that he's not the
Society's
only
caught up to him.
he's not
Yeah.
the only one screaming about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah, that
yeah,
there's
which is I mean
maybe a
there's an interesting like anonymous type thing that could potentially where now it's like society's caught up to him and now he's like part of a larger community.
yeah, yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean that's kind of an interesting version of that too. I mean, so then by that I kind of see where Chris Chan is coming from. If more people are kind of counterculture now, then there's
Yeah.
an argument to be made that to make him stand out, he would be more influency
Yeah,
mainstream.
yeah.
But I think it's better to keep the fundamentals of his character intact and just say, you know, that in this context, he's not the only one screaming about it. He's fine. Like there's some movement, some momentum maybe behind his views or his
You know what's
beliefs and
funny?
stuff like that, which is an interesting way to take a character people know and has established kind of parameters, but still have like some new territory to chart. Like that's a cool idea.
You know what's funny is that I think there it's a very fine line, but I think like maybe it's just because I've been watching The Good Place over again,
Mm.
but like Kristen's character on that show, this sort of like dirtbag washout kind of person is sort of counterculture, someone who's like refuses to engage in society because it's like a very thin line between that and like Trumpy side of like Fox News person, but I think like there's a thing to be said that like the people
I
that
mean,
are
Jack is
getting
kind of like that. I think you're onto something.
I think that there's an opportunity to be able to go like the people that have been left behind are the people who refuse to join as part of society or like fall in line with the populace. So it's like having somebody who just like doesn't want to engage with any of it and is sort of like a dirt bag, and it's like, well, let's look at like but or like someone who's like impoverished who like there's something there, I think, where that you could tell a story about that person.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting there. I mean, yeah, totally. I agree. I think there's some cool room for that. But yeah, I think fundamentally you still have to keep the character intact.
Yeah.
So it would be, I think, too much of a stretch, even though it's like a fun idea, too much of a stretch to flip Jack on his head and make him
Like
mainstream,
booster
you know?
gold. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
no, it's a good thought experiment. All
Yeah.
right, let's leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
I don't know how well it sounded on your end, but it worked well on mine.
It was closer than most of our Zooms are.
Love that. All right, first question. Oh, by the way, did you buy another suitcase? Like, how are you bringing 100 comic books home?
Oh, we brought an empty duffel bag in one of the suitcases.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense. Because if you didn't have an option, you could always put all the comics in a block of ice.
Oh my god. Holy
That's
shit, it's
right.
happening.
That's right. It's from the Iceman Customs. Is the first question.
The Iceman Customs.
Who asks any connection to David Bowie?
Oh, I mean, I think that Michael Thomas one is vaguely like not in any like material way, but I'm is there not a connection between the Starman song and the movie?
Well, I mean, it's from the 80s.
I feel like there's a sort of like a couple of degree separation connection to Bowie. You know, like Michael Thomas is not designed to look like anything in particular, but it is not a stretch to imagine.
1972 is Ziggy Stardust. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not a stretch to imagine that someone designed that character while listening to like Ziggy Stardust. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it's that's not a stretch in any way whatsoever. I think it would be a shock to learn that Bowie is in no way an influence on that Starman.
Did Kirby
But
ever touch Starman?
I don't think so. I don't
Because
think he
that,
would
I
have
mean,
touched
there
any of
you
them.
could get a real fucking like Ziggy Stardust vibe from Starman done by fucking Kirby.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think if, of any of them, it's probably that Michael Thomas one, the alien one, who's
Sure.
with like the blue skin, who comes and lives among us and learns our ways and stuff like that. I mean, it also just feels the most Bowie-ish.
Yeah,
It's probably that one if it's any of them.
totally. All right, next question comes from Dan Hummer. Nice. 97.
Oh my god, give her the old 97.
Yeah, that's right. Do you think there's missed potential and more story to tell with David Knight? They killed the poor guy off rather quickly.
Right. So Ted Knight is the original Starman. He was a
Yeah.
member of the Justice Society, along with Jay Garrick and Alan Scott and all those folks. Excuse me. And those people, you know, they've been aged up and down from magic or being in a pocket universe or all sorts of different things. During Zero Hour, a bunch of them have their ages changed again in a fight with Extant, who has time powers.
I'm just going to give it to
Well, Extant gone gone give it to
you. Gave it
Ted
to you.
Knight. He aged him up to
Oh,
be
that's
like
right.
to be his actual age, like 90 or some shit like that. And
Oh, is
so
this the thing that he did with all of the Justice Society
well, he
folks?
didn't do it to all of them because like Alan Scott ends up younger. He ends up like in his 20s or
Oh yeah,
something like
there's a
that.
bunch of weird timey wimey shit they did with the Justice Society, right? Yeah.
All sorts of weird timey-wimey shit. But Ted Knight ends up aged up, and so he passes the mantle of Starman. He passes the costume and the cosmic rod onto his son David. David is the real Keener, the favorite son. He takes it up. He's going to be the Starman. He's going to protect Opal City, and he gets shot and killed. He just fucking
Wow.
dies.
Was it
Um,
like a fridging situation?
I mean, kind of in that David isn't really a character unto himself.
Yeah.
He dies, and Jack kind of reluctantly becomes Starman. He doesn't want anything to do with his dad's legacy. He's got, you know, his own issues there, but he sort of does it reluctantly and ends up learning the value of heroism, all those kind of things. And part of the structure of the book is every once in a while he kind of has these like kind of internal, almost like spiritual conversations with David, his dead brother, and kind of he's working through his issues and all this kind of stuff. So in that sense, David only exists as a device for Jack. So in a way, that is technically a fridging thing,
Yeah.
though it has nothing to do with female characters.
No, 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 no.
Um, but do I think that it's a missed potential with David? I mean, not really, because just being able to do more with any character isn't immediately potential. You know what I mean? Like some characters die and some characters don't, and some stories end and some keep going. It's not always a matter of potential. I guess technically you could say if they were to have done more with David, he potentially could have been more interesting, but that's not why he's there. You know
I
what I
know, but
mean?
then you're
Like,
getting into that weird conversation about fridging, which is like, do you create a character just to kill them?
except that the conversation about fridging is specifically about the pattern of it being women. It's
No,
not
for
an argument.
sure.
It's not an argument against some characters have to die to motivate your character. Like
But I thought part of that conversation,
that is a narrative device. You're allowed to do that. It's the fridging thing is a rebuttal of the pattern of it always being a female character advancing a male character's story.
but I mean, I know that that's the major takeaway, but I thought part of it was like lazy writing of creating a character with no substantial like value just so that
but
you could kill them to value somebody
but
else.
only in the sexism context. It's the misogyny lens of it. Like narratively, characters can die. That's part of like what motivates a character. Like that's an option that's out there. The fridging argument has always been about why is it always the women? You don't make them a character. They're not in control of their own things, and they only exist to motivate male characters. Like that is the
But isn't that
entirety
bad
of
just
the
to do
fridge.
that to anybody? Like that you shouldn't just create characters just like with no value just to kill them just
No,
to
because
motivate.
now
Is that
we're
bad
getting into
writing?
no, because now we're getting into an all lives matter situation about it. That's not what
No,
it.
no.
No, no, no. But no, but what I mean is the fridging argument is because it only or mostly happens to women. The point is that is a device, but why aren't they doing it with like why aren't more male characters dying to motivate male characters? Why aren't male characters dying to motivate female characters? It should be like it is a device you can use, but it has to be done in a way that's not like only bent, to the detriment of one group. That's the fridging argument. So David is in that sense, like, is David really much of a character? Not overly, but he has a role to play in that book. Frankly, he gets more of a role than a lot of those women that get fridged do, because at least he shows up after death in a sort
Sure.
of kind of spiritual sense as a kind of mentor figure and sounding board for Jack. But do I think that there's lost potential? Like, no, not really, because that's not what David exists for. He exists as part of the Starman. That book is always Jack's story. It was always going to be Jack's story. Having more David isn't lost potential. He does exactly what he's supposed to do in Jack's story. It's not like David was like a long-standing character that we saw for decades, and we're like, one day David's going to be Starman. Like, he wasn't like Dick Grayson or something like that. Like, and then the day Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, they killed him. Like, it
Because that
wasn't.
would be interesting.
But that would be different. That would feel like lost potential. That's not the case with David. It's kind of like, oh, Ted's old. Hey, did I tell you that I had a son? And then he
Sure.
kind of like, here, you take the mantle. You died. The other son gets it.
Yeah, don't worry, I've got another son.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no build up to it, so it doesn't feel like we lost potential in any way.
Sure.
That's my take on it.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from Cursed Blob, who asks, is there a particular reason why there are so many different versions of Starman? I find the history of the character really interesting, yet sometimes I wonder if it wouldn't be more simple to create a new hero from scratch, since some versions are so loosely connected.
Well, I mean, if you created a new hero from scratch, you'd only be contributing to the problem. you know. Um,
That's probably what everybody else wanted to do. It's the Hawkman scenario.
I mean, there's a little bit of that. The nice thing is that at least the Robinson Starman series has a relatively tidy way of tying them together. And it's mostly that, like, I've been Starman, that guy was called Starman, I met him once. Or like, this guy has
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
celestial powers, I have celestial powers. It's fine. He's part of the family. You know what I mean? Like, they just kind of, it doesn't have to be like, it's not like Hawkman where you have to like account how you were in two places at once, or like, it's not like
If
that kind
anything,
of
for like
continuity
multiple
thing.
versions of characters, this is probably one of the cleanest ones.
Oh, totally. And it's basically as simple as, in our travels, we have crossed paths and I gave my blessing and you're a star man. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
half the time it's that simple. It has nothing to do with, you know, where were you on like September 3rd? And like, does that line up with where this guy was? Like,
Where were
you
you
don't
on
have to
January
deal.
6th?
Uh-oh. Um,
Because does Starman work from like a city, or is he just like space adjacent? Like, is it
so
like every Starman is in like blank city?
no, not every Starman. So Ted Knight and David Knight briefly, and Jack Knight, the kind of main Starman lineage,
Yeah.
protect Opal City.
Okay.
Um, Star Girl is obviously in Blue Valley, Nebraska, or sometimes in LA. She inherits the cosmic staff from Jack Knight when he's
Mhm.
done being Starman. Um, the alien ones have kind of a broader sort of scope. I mean, Prince Gavin only really was concerned about Throne World, so that wasn't even on Earth. Um, the the reason why there's so many versions, I don't know specifically. I suspect that there's that thing of like the from the golden age to the silver age, there's that transition, right? We got a new Flash, we got a new Green Lantern, we got new origins for Hawkman, we got a new Atom, like
Mhm.
all of a lot of characters kind of got a new version. But then it also feels like, oh, I have a take on Starman, and maybe it's like a little too of the moment, or maybe someone goes like, nah, that's not it. But I have this other, like, it
Sure,
kind of
yeah.
just feels like something about the idea didn't latch well enough, where people didn't, no one felt like making a new one was shitting on the previous one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas other characters, I think, have that, where it's like, if someone came in and was like, I've got a new Green Lantern, you go like, whoa, 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 we've got, I mean, it's funny to say that now. There's so many Earth Green Lanterns, but
Yes.
like I think there probably was a time where it was like, whoa, whoa, but we've got Green Lanterns, we've got that covered. Let's just slow our roll here a little bit. You know, I I don't fully know what it is because I think we've talked about it. The idea of Starman is so cool, and there's just so much potential to it. But for some reason, something about it never really stuck, and no one felt any reference for the attempt that came before. Because like Michael Thomas and Prince Gavin have short runs. They're not around very long. Will Payton has a decent run, but it's not super long. The longest running Starmen are Ted Knight and Jack Knight. And then we have Star Girl, who is technically the inheritor of that entire mantle, but is so like, other than her literally being handed the rod by Jack Knight, we rarely revisit her connection to Starman in any
Sure.
way,
Yeah, the
you
comic, I
know?
mean, the TV show does a lot more.
I mean, but the TV show is interesting because, like, Stargirl in the comics actually inherits two mantles. She inherits the Starman mantle and
Yeah.
gets the cosmic staff, but she also inherits the Star Spangled Kid and gets the cosmic
Yeah.
converter belt. And the show tries to simplify that and put them both into one character, but they don't make that character Starman. They make it Skyman, which is the
Yeah.
adult version of the Star Spangled Kid.
Sure.
So the show actually like continues this trend that I'm talking about of like removing Stargirl from Starman
Sure.
in a
Yeah.
weird way that kind of doesn't 100% make sense to me. So yeah, I mean it's a weird lineage. I don't fully know the reason for it, but I will say if you tried to make a new character to take it on, you'd be contributing to the problem. The best version of tying them together is the James Robinson Starman series, and it's some of it is very very loose. It's not even like, and I handed the rod to them. They have different rods. Some people don't have rods. It's just like we are connected by this idea of cosmic energy and like
Yeah.
our pursuit of justice and that sort of thing, and that makes us, in the Vin Diesel sense, family.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's kind of that
I
sort
like
of
that.
piece
I
to
think
it.
that's the best one, and especially when you don't have as much of like a convoluted like backstory of like everybody's been in that city at the same time, and so how do they all exist but don't exist? Like it makes it a little bit
Yeah,
easier to be that loose, but I do like that.
I totally agree.
All right, next question. Resident Jack, tear down that stone wall.
I'm not gonna do it because I only ever do Nixon. I can't do a Reagan.
Resident Jack.
Ronald Reagan.
Oh,
Nope.
oh, you were close. That was close as you've gotten.
Ronald Reagan. General Secretary Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
The stone wall.
No, see, that feels like Boss Nass. Like you're getting to
There's stone wall.
it's a
That's right.
bomb bad wall.
That's right. Stonewall. Jack Stonewall, who asks, where is Jack Knight now in the main universe? What's he getting up to? How's his kid?
Jack Knight in the main universe. I mean, I don't think we have a definitive where he is. A lot of continuity's been kind of like unraveled but reinstated and stuff like that. So in general, he's not Starman
Hmm.
because he's passed that along to Courtney Whitmore to Star Girl. Um, as for his kid, he has a kid with the daughter of his dad's archenemy. So Ted Knight, the original Starman, his archenemy was the Mist, who was a supervillain who could turn into basically like a living cloud of vapor. Um, the
After I went to
Mist,
Taco Bell, I created an.
yeah, my master plan is to crop dust this entire room. The Mist has a daughter um, called Nash, and
Boss
she,
Nash.
Boss Nash, and she ends up having a kid with Jack. That kid is part of that Robinson Starman series. Like that relationship is a pretty key component of it. But we learn in DC 1 million that that kid launches a lineage that eventually ends up with the Starman of the 853rd century, Ferris Knight, who lives on a space station orbiting Uranus. And
Knight. Knight. Where's Knight? Ferris.
I see Ferris Knight. Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Um, and it's funny, like that's like in the 853rd century. It's like however many years in the future, right?
Yeah.
And Ferris Knight goes, I think I was always kind of destined for villainy because like however many years in the past my mother was a super villain. Like he kind of blade like Ferris Knight has a sort of like betrayal kind of thing, and DC 1 million helps Brainiac, is it 13 or whatever, um, but blames it on like an ancestor from like from like 830 centuries earlier. Like it's a little bit funny, but technically that's, we know that that kid goes on, lives, has a family, like is part, we I don't necessarily know like how active as in the hero or villain communities, but like that kid has a lineage, like
Hmm.
that family lives on all the way to the very, very far future of DC 1 million.
Well, with that, let's leave Instagram and head to the doc scored.
Oh fuck.
Sing in the empty house of sleeping people.
Hang on. No.
Come on.
Um, oh,
Let's go.
okay. 6 a.m. day after doc
Oh my
scored.
God.
I put some scored on in the docs.
What's that?
She's a doc scored up, dachshund scored Lee, scored my dachshund up, dachshund scored.
I gotta tell you, that version was an abortion of music.
Ugh. There's like a Jake and Amir sketch where he's singing that, and Jake's like, "Do you know what that song's about?" He's like, "It's about a fun vacation." He's like, "Nope."
Nope. All right, first question comes from the marvelous Ryan, who asks, should Starman and Eclipso always be connected in one way or another?
I mean, the Starman book, I think, is part of that Eclipso Darkness Within event. I think this question is maybe because like Starman harnesses like this energy from stars, so like inherently kind of
Yeah.
like light based, and Eclipso is obviously, tied to darkness and
Yeah.
shadow and those kind of things. Eclipso was a good villain in season 2 of Stargirl, and I enjoyed that, but that was more of like a Justice Society thing. They did a good job on the show of essentially making it between light and dark and putting Courtney in the position of the light. Um, I don't I don't think I've ever looked at Eclipso and felt like Eclipso needs to be a Starman, like part of Starman's canon. You know what I mean? Like, um, yeah, I don't know necessarily that I feel that way. They've encountered each other, and I like, yeah, I don't have anything against them having interactions or anything like that. But I have no particular feeling that like Eclipso belongs to Starman or vice versa or anything like that.
Sure, yeah. Does Starman have like a arch nemesis?
His archenemy is the Mist.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right, next question from Butt Fart Butt, who asks, in your opinion, which version of Starman has the best power set?
A lot of them are pretty similar on the power sets. It's probably Will Payton because he doesn't need any external technology for it. He has all that cosmic energy stuff and flight and all of that, but it's just in him. He's the actual one with a power set. Like the Knight family all use technology, the gravity rod, the cosmic rod, or the cosmic staff. So the Knight family and Courtney all use tech to access Starman kind of powers. Prince Gavin had a staff and bracelets that sort of helped him harness his own powers. Michael Thomas had that crystal in his chest. So to me, it's Will Payton because he's the one with like inherent, like he gets powers. In actual kind of superhero terms, he's the one that like, receives powers, becomes a superhero. So
Yeah,
to me, that's kind of the most fun.
love that.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from C5M1CDM, who asks,
Wow, you refuse to read Leet speak.
I shall not.
Mhm.
Which was a better reclamation of an old character? Jack Knight, Starman, or Gaiman's Sandman and their connection to Hector Hall?
Oh, I see. I mean, I think it's um Gaiman's Sandman is Gaiman's Sandman isn't a reclamation of it. You know what I mean? Like we know that there's the Justice Society Sandman, the kind of pulp character, whatever. And we know that there's that weird Kirby Sandman that was actually like a dream superhero.
Yeah,
But like Morpheus, like Sandman um in the Gaiman series isn't like a reclamation of those characters. He's something new, and then Gaiman being very kind of intuitive and intelligent and loving the lore of DC finds a way to weave the old things in. The the Starman scenario with Jack Knight is different because we're 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 doing some of the same work as Gaiman in terms of weaving in Michael Thomas and Will Payton and some of those other Starmen into the story. But Jack Knight's Starman is a very clear just successor to the original Starman. The equivalent in Sandman would be like Wesley Dodds is handing his gas gun off to someone else to be the new Sandman, and then later we learn that Morpheus is just also there. I feel like they're slightly different scenarios. Um, so to me, the Starman series isn't a reclamation of an old character. It's just continuing the character story. The the Sandman series from Gaiman is like a brand new character, but I guess you could make the argument that it's finally providing some overarching stuff to Sandman. I guess in that way, I see why we're connecting the two. They both do some of that work. But the Jack Knight Starman one, I mean, the character it's reclaiming is Ted Knight, a character who is largely inactive
sure.
since the golden age. Like even on the scale of the Justice Society, if I just asked you to name Justice Society members, the odds of you getting Starman are pretty low. We'd hit Jay Garrick, Alan Scott, Wildcat, Hawkman, like Dr. Fate. We'd hit all of those characters first. Starman's a lot lower on that list. So in a way, even though the story is Jack Knight's, and that's not really reclaiming the character, because there's so much Ted Knight in that book as an
Yeah.
old man, and we revisit the past a lot. Jack meets his Justice Society buddies. We have some flashback stories. We're dealing with the Mist and like the legacy of Starman and stuff like that. So because of that, I suppose that is maybe more of a reclamation than the Sandman series is of Sandman. So I
Yeah.
guess my answer is the Starman series.
Yeah.
Long
Uh,
way to get there, and I changed my opinion like 4 times on the way.
sounds like you.
Yeah, I come out
We'll
strong and then immediately reevaluate.
and even we'll talk yourself into a different decision.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll probably change it by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, just know that I already disagree.
All right, next question comes from Lilith, who asks, "How and why did he's a Calor
Hello, yeah.
come back post Infinite Crisis and become Starman? Why did he take that identity instead of sticking with that with his old one?"
Okay. So Tom Kalor is from the 31st century. He's Star Boy in the Legion of Superheroes. And Star Boy comes from a different planet, obviously, and he has the power to like alter the mass of things to make them heavier. Um, he okay. Post Infinite Crisis, um, in the 1 year later thing, Tom Kalor ends up back in time, like in the 20th century, the 21st century, in the present. But it's the Tom Kalor from is it from the original Legion? He's sorry, just give me a sec here. This one I want to double check because it's a little confusing. Okay. Right. So he comes back and he's treated as though he's a little bit crazy or whatever. Oh yeah, so he's from the original Legion timeline. The Legion timeline has already changed a few times by Infinite Crisis through Zero Hour and stuff like that. So this Tom is from the original Legion timeline, like pre-Crisis.
Sure.
And he ends up in the present and he's treated as crazy and he ends up in like an insane asylum or something like that. And then he starts operating as Starman for a bit. But he also gets like you might have seen this suit. It's like a full head to toe, and it looks like it's like a 3D depth of field of stars. Like it almost looks like he's a cutout and you're seeing stars behind him.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that is meant to be like a special suit that is actually like a living map of the multiverse or the universe or something like that. So he ends up kind of tied to all that stuff. The precise how does that happen? I don't remember. And I think he took that identity because I think he was like aged up or he was just older because he's from that original timeline. He's actually I think it wouldn't work for him to be like Star Boy anymore.
Sure.
But so he is briefly a Starman and operating that way. But yeah,
Starman, Daddy, Starman.
I've slightly butchered that, but the short version is that he's post Infinite Crisis. It is the pre original Crisis Starboy that ends up in the present operating a
Sure.
Starman.
Next question from Mullet Overlord, who asks, "How well do the O'Dare clan encapsulate the spectrum of POS Irish cops?"
Oh man. So in the Starman series, that Robinson one, where we um supporting characters in it are the O'Dares, an entire family of Irish cops that operate in Opal City that kind of have like they basically have a like, listen, your dad really helped out back in the day. We'll do anything to help Starman. Kind of like we've pledged
Sure.
ourselves. Our family is pledged to help Starman, essentially. Like they end up like sucked into other dimensions. I
Oh,
think one of them
wow.
dies. Like they like lay down their lives for Starman, but they're kind of regular Irish cops. But they um Irish cops. I'm saying that like it's a specific breed of cop. Um
I mean, kind of.
how I mean they sure can tie one on. They're drunks, most of them, mostly. They're tough as nails. They're I'd say they're not like your typical piece of shit Irish cops who kind of like, if we're thinking of the stereotype, like these are the cops, like these ones are kind of like the rule breakers. They're like, we're cops, but we're also like, we're like pro this vigilante, this guy that we like,
Sure.
Starman. So, I don't know that they 100% encapsulate all of the stereotypes of Irish cops, but they sure have the drinking down, the drinking and fighting. They're
Sure.
pretty good. They're pretty good at being Irish cops. It's up there. It's a good question. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Also, defund the O'Dare clan.
No, I'm pro funding Irish cops.
Oh no,
Yeah.
blanket statements are probably not a good idea here.
AICAG. All Irish cops are good.
Oh no. Oh no.
Man, I'm pretty sure that'll hold up when we play that tape back.
That wouldn't hold up 4 years ago.
I don't think it'll hold up in 5 seconds.
Nope. All right. Next question comes from Dragon the Black Rose.
Krusty's nuts.
Baby, like a dragon, the black rose again.
I just wanted it to sound like Dragon D's nuts, like you're dragging the
No,
black rose.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the did I send you that TikTok, the Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah.
Dragon D's nuts across your face.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Is the cosmic rod that Starman uses the same one that Stargirl uses? Is that like a time travel thing?
Not a time travel thing at all because it's got a pretty like linear handoff. So Jack Knight uses the cosmic staff and he passes that to Stargirl. But Jack Knight only uses the cosmic staff because he lost the cosmic rod. So initially Ted Knight used the gravity rod. That was kind of like the first version of his technology. And then he upgraded it to the cosmic rod. Don't ask me precisely what the difference is between them, but that's the progression. Jack loses a rod in like an early adventure. He's not very good at being a hero, and he has
Yeah.
to use like an older thing. And basically, Ted says like before I could condense the technology into just like a short rod, it used to have to live in this huge fucking staff. And so
Sure.
he ends up using that cosmic staff. That staff is the same one that Courtney has. So that staff has been passed along, but it technically goes like staff, rod, staff. Like that's
Sure.
the progression of the thing. So it's not a time travel thing. It's just that it's an earlier version of the technology that Jack has to go back to because he loses the rod, and then he eventually just hands that off to Stargirl. So there's no timey wimey stuff. He's done. He retires. He hands it off.
Nice. All right. Last question from Ensign Ricky. I'd love for everybody to have their positions within the Starfleet on the Discord.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah. I guess you're captain.
Obviously, or admiral.
Oh, wow. So big for his britches immediately.
But I'm also easily corrupted, just like
Yeah.
Starfleet admirals.
I mean, you do have that weird worm thing in your ear.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm eating a whole bowl of mealworms right now.
um,
It's
Ensign
somehow
Ricky.
less gross than the banana milk.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, if we do dairy dogmas, that has to be one of the things.
That's fine. I'll do it. I'm not lactose intolerant. I think the biggest win of dairy dogmas is that you're lactose intolerant.
Look, I just don't think milk should get married. Otherwise, I think I'm fine.
Yeah. He's really lactose intolerant. Yeah. What we need at this time is some lactose tolerance.
Yeah. I just don't want its milky ways rubbed in my face. Otherwise, it can do what it wants.
They can have civil dairy.
Yeah, I just don't want to see cheese kiss.
Why does yogurt have to like rub it in everyone's face all the time? Jesus Christ.
You don't see me have non-dairy parades.
Oh, good Lord.
Anton Ricky asks, have we reached a limit of descriptor man / woman superhero names? Have all the good ones simply been taken?
I mean, Starman is that feels like
It's the 40s one.
I think superhero names work a little bit like URLs, right? Where like the
Sure.
simplest ones, the most direct ones got picked early.
Yeah, but
And like
now we have Starman.tk.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, last week we were talking about Milkman Man, like
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I really there's something I like about a classic superhero name. I'm all for kind of like, I don't hate like when a superhero is like shows up and like I'm Blaze and you're like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Nice. But I kind of like the idea of be like, I'm Blaze Man. You're like, fuck yeah. Like,
Also, fucking Blaze is such a bad character.
wow. Um, yeah, I don't know. Can you think of like, do you think there's like an open superhero URL that should have been taken by now that isn't? Like a simple but obvious like thing
Ooh.
that should be like something man, something woman?
Ooh. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess not. I don't know, Postman.
Postman man?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
just putting other delivery
Yeah,
people
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I don't really know. I can't think of anything like that like is specifically feels like a mist because you can put anything, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, I mean technically there's not a sun man, but there's sun boy, from the Legion. Um,
Moon Man.
you know, it's not Cold Man, but Captain Cold. Like I feel like a lot of like the simple
I mean,
pieces
this
have
was
been taken.
I don't think we've ever talked about this, but this was part of the reason why we called this Doctor DC was the doctor. There's like a
Yes.
ton of doctors, and that was part of
Yes.
the
Yeah, a thing that I'm not sure if you like deliberately misunderstood or like for so long, like so much of the verbiage around this show is like actual medical doctor related, like calling them
yes,
residents and stuff like that,
yes. I know.
prescribed reading. But like I
Yes.
I definitely meant it in the Dr. Fate way, not in the
I know you did, but you can't call a thing doctor and then it's marketing. I can't help it. I'm going with the theme.
I don't know. That feels like it's bad marketing to put a picture of a person dressed like a doctor as the cover of a comic book podcast. That feels like it's inherently like
I think I think
mixing
there's an issue.
messages.
I think there's an inherent issue with the name Dr. DC anyways that people were thinking it was a medical thing, primarily from the fact that I had to beg an actual doctor for a lot of our URLs.
Yeah, yeah. I have a suspicion it didn't help putting me in a doctor's outfit.
Well, I figured I was like in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, yeah. That's the marketing expert. Just for the record, I want it on record that the marketing expert was like in for a penny on confusion, in for a pound.
Hell yeah. That's right. I mean, sure, the artwork did have that, but it also had a bunch of DC shit in it. It
I
just
mean,
had, it was just a lab coat.
well, at any rate, yeah. I mean, I think you're right to point out that a lot of the simple ones have been taken, but I doubt we've hit our limit. It's probably just stuff I'm not. Oh, I just had a very bad one that I can't say.
Pardon?
I just I was looking around the room. I was like, there's got to be something in here that would like a something man, and they have powers related to that thing.
Did you see the fridge? What?
No, I looked over here. My mom has a lot of like nice porcelain stuff and like fine
Oh,
china, and I
China
was
Man.
like, but that's bad to say.
Oh my
And I caught it and I didn't say it, but that's what
Oh my God.
it have porcelain
That's
powers.
yeah. No, that's as bad as pedophile.
It's not great. Yeah. So at any rate, I hope that answers that.
Oh my God. Well, that was the last question, which means that you can now hear about the plays that you can send us questions for future episodes.
Yeah, baby. I have no idea what next week's episode is going to be, but I'm going to decide it. Maybe by the time you listen to this, but probably on Thursday. That's usually when I put the calls out. So you'll see it when you see it. So
Yeah, but we've prepared so well for these episodes. So how could you not have already thought of that?
I've prepared. I think anyway, uh listen, it's fucking 1 a.m. here.
Yeah, baby.
Um yeah, hit us up on our various social media platforms.
Such
Our
as
okay, I was gonna say we're not still swapped, right?
no, just do them all.
Dr. DC Podcast or Dr. DC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Dr. DC Podcast at gmail.com is our email. You can visit our website, drdcpodcast.com or .ca. We've got a subreddit, r/Dr_DC. Give us a call on the doc phone, 208-917-3238.
Also, if you want more content from us, you can subscribe to our Patreon.
Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Discord, our awesome Discord fan community. At the higher levels, you get bonus episodes, theme polls, all sorts of fun stuff that helps to support us.
Also, if you like this podcast, you might want the little bit of different content that you get from our whole other podcast.
Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. It's a grand old time. Go suck it up.
That's right. That's it for this week. Suck it up.
Adios.
Ciao, ciao.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.